Good afternoon, children. In my last video, I had discussed the experiments on photosynthesis and the importance of carbon cycle. Today, we are going to start with our lesson number 5, Absorption by Roots, the processes involved. This is given at page number 35 in your current textbook. This is this chapter what we are going to start just now. Now, as the name tells, children, this chapter is everything that deals with the process of absorption. Now we know that roots not only fix the plant in the soil, but it also provides a very good support. In addition to this fixation and support, roots also absorb water and mineral salts, right, from the soil, and the same are conducted into the stem to be supplied to leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. So we can say that the process of photosynthesis and transpiration is definitely depending on the process of absorption. To move further, if we talk about the need of water and minerals for the plants, the same water and minerals that are absorbed, then we have 4 points to discuss, right? There are especially 4 very important processes that the water and minerals are required for. Number 1 is photosynthesis. The water that is absorbed by the roots is used up in the green leaves as one of the raw materials for photosynthesis. And during the same process, we know oxygen is given out and there is synthesis of glucose. So this water is certainly very, very important. Second point is transpiration. A good amount of the water absorbed, it gets evaporated as water vapor, and this is called as transpiration. This helps the plant to cool down, right, in hot weather, and also provides a suction force for the absorption of water column along with the minerals. The third process is transportation. Transportation of substances in water solution from the roots upward in the shoot, that is the mineral salts from the leaves to other parts. That is also depending on the process of absorption. And finally, the mechanical stiffness, we also call this as turgidity. This means a fully distended or a tight condition of the cell. Now this is very necessary that the plant tissues, they are in a stiff condition, right? The same is what is required definitely for the role of water for the cells to provide stiffness or turgidity. Now along with water, we know different type of minerals are also absorbed by the plants. And what minerals? The roots, they absorb minerals in 2 forms. Salts, as salts is one category, and the other is as ions. Salts include like nitrates, phosphates, sulfates, etc. And ions like potassium ions, calcium ions, magnesium, chlorine, etc. Now these elements, if we all talk about broadly, what are they required for? They're very important as constituents of cell wall. Then they are also required for the cell organelles like mitochondria, nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, etc. And the same elements, they are required for synthesis of compounds and enzymes. Alright, so till just now we saw, children, this was a very brief introduction that what is the role of roots during absorption and what is the purpose of the absorbed water and minerals. We saw water required for these and minerals required for these functions. To move further, let us talk about characteristics of roots for absorbing water. In the whole plant, children, why is it that the roots are the only efficient organs? And there are reasons for it. We have 3 primary reasons in support. The first says root has a surface area which is enormous. And how does this extra spacious enormous area gets up to this limit? By rootlets and root hairs. I'll show you a simple diagram of your book at page number 36. If you see, this is a freshly germinated seed showing a single root with root hairs. Look at the main root and look at the root hairs, right? So especially when the roots are or we can say where a plant is uprooted from the soil, we see a thick bunch of rootlets. When we carefully examine this, we will see hundreds of root hairs, children, and if all the root hairs are to be laid end to end, they will they will reach up to a length of many, many kilometers. So you can see the first point is very convincing that yes, the roots have enormous surface area. Why? Because of root hairs. Second, root hairs have cell sap of higher concentration than surrounding water. Now, what is cell sap, children? Cell sap means it is a mixture of minerals and water, right? And where this is contained, children? This is contained inside the vacuoles of the plant cell. I'll show you. This is a simple diagram here. Same page, number 36. A single fully grown root hair and two more in successive stages of growth from the epidermal cell. This is a single fully grown root hair. You can see this. And there are two more that are in process of growth. The same I'll show you through a diagram that I have made for you in a better way so that we discuss about the root. Now we know, children, if we talk of this root hair, suppose this is one single root hair from here. Look this. Here, this is one single root hair from this epidermal cell. Right? So what is a root hair rightly? Root hair is nothing but an extension of the outer epidermal cell of root. The same cell which would have been actually a box-like has now grown into an extension. Right? Now they also contain, now this is one cell, so obviously there will be one nucleus. Right? There's an outer boundary, we call it as cell wall, we all know it. The inner dotted red line, it's called as cell membrane. You can see there's a cytoplasm, right? Thin cytoplasm it is there. The green colored area is depicting the thin volume of cytoplasm. But yes, large number of voluminous vacuoles. So this orange substance, what you see is the presence of vacuole, and the vacuoles, they contain what you call as cell sap. Just now I explained you what is cell sap. It is a mixture of water and minerals. Alright, so this same cell sap what we are talking here, children, this is highly concentrated, very, very concentrated, means this is less water and more minerals. Alright, once again understand, this is less water and more of minerals. So imagine if you compare to the water molecules outside, water outside is more, right? And inside, just now I said, water is less. More water outside because soil water has abundant water molecules, but less water inside. Where inside? The vacuoles. And why less? Because the sap is highly concentrated. So the same water starts getting inside. And this is absorption, in other words. Because water, it is entering from an area of more concentration because it's enough outside to an area where it is less through a semi-permeable membrane, right? So you can see this, that water is getting into the root or being absorbed into the roots. So this is why we have the importance of highly concentrated cell sap. Imagine if this was dilute, which is not definitely, but imagine if this was dilute, then water absorption would have not been possible, right? So this characteristic of the root hair is a very important requirement to draw in water from the outside. And this comes in by a process called osmosis. We'll talk of it later in the chapter, but always remember, what is this process? Area of more water molecules to an area of less water molecules through semi-permeable membrane. And semi-permeable membrane here is the dotted cell membrane, the red one. Alright, so that was the second characteristic that was required for the root hair or root for absorption of water. What is the third characteristic? Root hairs have thin walls, that is thin and semi-permeable. SPM means semi-permeable membrane. We'll explain this later in the chapter, children. We can say that like all other plant cells, the root hairs also have two layers. Just now you saw outer is cell wall and inner is cell membrane. The cell wall is thin and permeable. This cell wall is thin and permeable, and it allows the movement of water molecules and dissolved substances freely in and out. Then the cell membrane is also very thin and semi-permeable. Here it is SPM. that is semi-permeable membrane, which means that it allows water molecules to pass through but does not allow the movement of dissolved molecules or dissolved salts, right? So this is one another characteristic, and total we have a total of 3 characteristics which makes root as one of the very efficient absorbing structures for water and minerals. All right, so here we've stressed only on water just now, so restrict to the absorption of water. Once again, let us do from the beginning what all things I have introduced just now: function of roots, need of water, and importance of minerals, that what they do in the plant cells, then characteristics of roots for absorbing water. Also, we have discussed, children, this diagram. It's a very important diagram, children. You should be able to draw it nicely and label it. This is very much expected. You can be asked to draw also, or the drawn diagram can be given and you can be asked relevant questions. So here I have completed 2 pages of your chapter number 4 here. This is the first page and this is the second page. Moving to the third page, children, here we are going to start absorption and conduction of water and minerals. See, overall we have a total of 5 main phenomena which are involved in absorbing water and minerals and transportation and upward conduction. See, first step is absorption, right, of water and minerals. Second is to be transported from root. It will be transported up to the stem, right? And the third process is obviously it will be moved upward. That is outside to soil, then soil to stem, and stem to upwards. There are 3 routes. So we have 5 processes to understand, children. First is imbibition. The second is diffusion. Third is osmosis. Fourth is active transport. And the fifth is turgidity and flaccidity. So let us see these terms, what they try to explain. Let us go one by one. Imbibition. Now, what is imbibition? Let us give some practical examples. See, you must have observed, children, especially during monsoon season, the wooden doors, they swell up. Whether they are the wardrobe doors or like the wooden doors, they swell up and they cannot be properly closed. Second example, if you have been recently, or let's say yesterday, previous night only, you have been to a dinner party somewhere and you've had a rich non-vegetarian diet, then the entire night you feel thirsty and you have a tendency to drink water, right? Why this happens? Because you had a lot of proteins in your diet, which is going to be, we can say, has an affinity for water. So 2 examples I'm taking, children. The first example is wooden doors, they swell up, right? The second is a proteinaceous diet, animal protein if we especially talk about, or plant protein, right? Or swelling up of dry seeds. Now what happens, children? There are certain substances which are called as hydrophilic. Hydro means water and phili means an affinity or likeness for it. That is, these substances, they have a greater liking towards water. Cellulose, that is found in the cell wall, proteins, right, that's made up of amino acids, and dry seeds or wooden doors. The moment they come in contact with water, right, they start adsorbing it. Now there are 2 terms to explain what they do, right? And this absorption is kind of surface phenomenon that we'll tell you, right? Due to the pressure that is generated, the seed coat also ruptures if it is the dry seeds absorbing. Let us see this, children. There is a term I am going to use. This is absorption and adsorption, right? So if we talk of here, you can see the water molecules. Suppose this is a ball of clay or mud and this is dipped into water, right? So here you can see that the water molecules are reaching up till the inside. So this is a total absorption. But here, if we talk of surface attraction, you're talking of surface attraction, right? This will be called as adsorption. That is, the same water has reached only to the surface and the inside is still dry. So this is what you're going to talk as imbibition, which is a surface attraction, right? And I'll show you the definition in your book. Phenomenon by which the living or dead plant cells absorb water by surface attraction, right? This is what you are trying to tell. Examples: cellulose, proteins, dry seeds, and wooden doors. Moving to the second, or before we move to it, let's see the importance of imbibition. We have already, definition of imbibition. The same one what I expressed there. The phenomenon by which living or dead plant cells absorb water by surface attraction. Second process in absorption and conduction is diffusion. Diffusion, you have to understand like this. It is the movement of molecules of anything, that is 3 states of matter: solid, liquid, or a gas, right? And remember children, anything that is moving will always be from an area of more to an area of less concentration. This will be fixed. That is, free movement of molecules of a substance, that is of a solute or a solvent, that is solid, liquid, or a gas, from the region of higher to region of lower concentration when they are in direct contact. Look at this experiment. To support this, this is a beaker containing water, and there is a red dye that is kept into one corner, right? This will do it in practical also. So this will be just one, and the water is not disturbed children. It is just left as it is, undisturbed. In that case, what happens is that the color starts progressing to a bigger area till it completely covers the entire water. So what have you seen this children? The movement here is from the area of higher concentration of this solute to an area of lower concentration, right, till it uniformly mixes. So you can see that the molecules are diffused. Here what you see the arrows, this is the arrow of diffusion of molecules till it finally is distributed very uniformly throughout the water. So this is what we call as diffusion. Also, if you talk of your practical day-to-day experience, opening up of deodorant bottles or your deos into one corner of the room and the same fragrance to be smelled into the other corner, or the entire room gets filled up, is nothing but diffusion. So that was the second process children. The third is osmosis. Osmosis is, yes, similar to diffusion, but yet very much different. How it is different? This is also movement of molecules from an area of more concentration to an area of less concentration. But here, solids, they will not move, gases, they will not move, and in liquid, the only liquid to move will be water, right? And here, unlike the previous, it will move through a semi-permeable membrane. So broadly, there are 2 differences between diffusion and osmosis. What are the 2 differences? Here, number 1, diffusion is possible in solid, liquid, or any gas. Here, it is not possible in solid, not possible in gas, and in liquids, it's only and only possible in water. Second difference, here there was no semi-permeable membrane required. The substance is diffused in direct contact. But here there is a semi-permeable membrane. We also call it as selectively permeable membrane required. So there are differences, and osmosis is definitely different from diffusion. There are 2 types of osmosis: endosmosis and exosmosis. Let's see endosmosis. This is, endo means to come inside, in, and exo means to move out, right? Like for example, I'll just show you a very simple diagram here. You can see these, and you can perform this at home also children. Take a glass vessel, take some water, ordinary water, and put some dry raisins into it and leave it overnight. What you see in the morning is, yes, they swell up and they become turgid. So this type of movement of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane, the membrane of the raisin is acting like the semi-permeable membrane, right? When it is surrounded, when the surrounding solution is less concentrated, right? Less concentrated means here water is more and solutes are less, right? Inside water is less and solutes are more. So it is definitely less concentrated. So water has gone in, therefore it is endosmosis. What is exosmosis? Exosmosis means to move out, just the reverse. Look at this. Take some fresh grapes, but here we have to dip it into concentrated sugar solution. Here where did we dip the raisins into? Pure water, and they swelled up. But here if we take the fresh grapes and we dip it into a concentrated sugar solution and leave it for let's say 6 to 7 hours, we'll see them, they become flaccid, or that the water starts moving out. So this osmosis which makes the water molecules to move out is called exosmosis. By definition, it is the outward diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane when the surrounding solutes is more concentrated, and this causes shrinkage, right? Whereas endosmosis, just now, what did you see that? It causes swelling, right? Whereas exosmosis, here it is causing the shrinkage. So I hope you've understood, children. Two processes here. Now this table coming next is a very, very important table, children. Please write it down and learn it by heart. It's always asked in exam some way or the other. I am going to give you examples of different kinds of membranes. First category is impermeable. Impermeable means which will not allow any movement through itself. Example, a rubber sheet. All of you have seen a rubber sheet, and it will not allow any movement through itself. Then, if we talk of the second category, then it is semi-permeable membrane or selectively permeable membrane or SPM, right? This SPM is a short form of selectively permeable membrane. Now in this we have many examples to be learnt by heart, children. Number one is cellophane paper. Second, egg membrane. Third, animal bladder. Fourth, whisking bag. Fifth, goat's bladder. And sixth, pig's bladder, etc. So this you have to learn by heart, children. So whether you call it this, SPM or selectively or semi-permeable makes no difference. Coming next is fully permeable membrane or completely permeable or freely permeable. Call it by any name. There's only one example here, muslin cloth, right? Because the mesh or the pores of the cloth are big enough, so it cannot retain anything, the solute or the solvent. Alright, so here we have fully permeable. Once again, impermeable, selectively permeable and fully permeable. Moving on to our next topic for discussion just now, active transport. By definition, passage of substance, that is salt or iron, from lower to higher concentration, that is opposite from diffusion, using energy from the cell through a living cell membrane. Now for this I'll have to show you another diagram, children. Look at this. This active and passive, yes, I'll talk a little detail later in my second video next time. But just now I'm telling you a brief idea. Till now I told you, children, water is moving from an area of more to less. And normally other things also, they always move from an area of more to less. But look at a situation like this, children. Here, just now I told you that outside water is more and inside water is less. Where inside? In the vacuoles. Just now you saw it, that the water inside is less, right? Therefore, water moved in easily. When it moved in easily, children, such an easy absorption or transport is called as passive absorption. But now think of the minerals, children. Minerals outside, what are they more or less comparatively? Cell sap is highly concentrated. Highly concentrated means more minerals. And outside minerals is comparatively less. Now you must be wondering why ma'am is saying less. Because you're talking of a given area of soil volume. So here comparatively, the soil has lesser minerals as compared to the minerals of the cell sap. So what should it mean, children? And I've told you that things move from an area of more to less. Rightly, if minerals are more inside, then they should start coming out. Right? In such a case, when the minerals come out, the plant will die. But does this ever happen? No. So in this case, minerals move again inside from an area of lesser to higher concentration. In other words, if I talk about the minerals, they are being forcibly taken up. Once again, minerals are moving from an area against the law of nature. Already less area, it's going to region where they are in abundance. So this forceful absorption is called as active transport, and this utilizes energy. This was very easy. Water moved from an area of more to less, no energy used, and this was called as passive transport. But here, when it comes to minerals, they will move from an area of less to more, and certainly they utilize energy in the form of ATP. This energy we call as adenosine triphosphate, and such an absorption is called as active transport. So coming to an end for today, here I have already discussed active transport, passage of substances, salts and ions from lower to higher. Just now you saw it, it's against the law of nature. It is lower to higher concentration, that is opposite from diffusion, and this uses energy in the form of ATP, and this goes on through the living membrane. So this will be the next thing, the other things I'll talk about. Today I'm finishing up at active transport, children. In my next video tomorrow, I'll move with the second part of this. Let us see what all things you have to copy down for today, children. The first page, importance of root, minerals, then absorb water, characteristics of root for absorbing water, right? The phenomenon, we have discussed imbibition, then diffusion, osmosis, types of osmosis, endo and exo, examples of 3 types of membranes, then active transport, right, which is the last topic for today. But yes, please draw this diagram very neatly in your classwork copies, children, and show the structure of single fully grown root hair, and with correct labelings this should be done. That's all for today. This other part no need to write for just now, I'll be posting you tomorrow. So what do you have to write, children? 2.5 pages. Number 1, 2 and 3. I'll send you only up till here, so you have no confusions, right? And this diagram to draw. That's all for this just now, children. Please, side by side, keep reading the new chapter, right? Some 3 pages roughly I have completed, and the other part of this we'll move on tomorrow with a further explanation. Thank you.